if you guys had to pick like the most important change that you would want to see the game go through right now, Elden Ring, obviously, what would it be? Let's start with Steel since you're technically the host.
Uh, to be honest, I have gotten like most of things that I wanted from the game already with the patch 1.06. and from now on, like I have very hard time answering this type of questions because I like the game. I enjoy it. I think like there is like some problem still with the TTK, obviously. Yeah, it's like it's not very equal. Like I would love more balance type of the changes among the weapons, but I literally cannot think right now of anything that I would love to change. Probably just like more support towards the PvP, yeah, and that's about it.
Just say light roll, man.
Oh Jesus, I forgot light roll. Light roll.
How did you forget?
I don't know. I forgot, man. Light roll. That's actually correct. True. Light roll. Back to not 8% of the distance, maybe even 10, whatever. Like just find the middle ground for the sake of so light roll speed is not faster than running because it is absurd.
All right, Lost. What about you? What do you what would you want to see change the most in the game?
Well, I would take the poise system, right? And I would put it in a bag. And I would put that bag in a small chest. And then I would take a boat and I would row all the way out into the ocean. I would drop it into the ocean. And then I would beg and plead and please ask Dark Souls 3 if we couldn't borrow their poise system instead. I would much rather play with the poise system and the hit stun system and all of that good stuff from Dark Souls 3. I was honestly super disappointed that we didn't get that system, that they moved away from that system in Elden Ring. I thought that they could have developed it with the jumping attacks and all of that good stuff, but instead they decided, oh, we'll bring passive poise back and we'll do this and we'll do that. If that is too much to ask for, though, then FromSoft, please fucking buff hammers.
Again, they already did.
Would you mind if I went on a quick tangent about this?
Go ahead, Amir, please.
So with the passive poise thing, right? Like a lot of people were disappointed with how they nerfed the poise damage of like light weapons in the 1.08 patch after like, already buffing them, right? Or like buffing them before. And the thing is with that, and the reason I think they did it and why a lot of people have been floating they've done it is because apparently after the patch, light weapons people felt became too difficult to like reach those breakpoints and have like the same fashion. And I really, if that is the case, that's the reason why they nerfed it again, I'm pretty upset because like there's like a much easier way to do that without making it so that like light weapons just can't consistently break in like 2 hits and stuff, right? Or that hammers can't be so easily tanked. And that would be to actually properly balance the armor sets and make it so as you go up in weight, you get less and less poise returns, right? Because why the hell
do that right now? No.
No, what they did was they made it so at least it's something like 1.4 to 2 points of poise per weight point on your armor, right?
So you want
like
multiplier rather than kind of,
Yeah, they did like a range across the board, but it's inconsistent. So you have things like Tree Sentinel, which are on the upper bounds of it and also in the higher weight brackets. So it just ends up being more optimal to just wear like a piece of or several pieces of Tree Sentinel and then whatever pieces you can mix in. So it's like they sort of like fix it by being like, okay, we're not going to make cloth armor literally have 0 poise because technically that's thematically accurate or realistic, but we are still gonna like do some funny things where it's sort of just like varying across the board because like funny RPG mechanics. But like what this ends up doing is just making it so like literally it ends up narrowing like the meta or your build options more rather than making it interesting.
All right, let's go on with Oro. Oro, do you have anything to say about that, or would you like to talk
Oh,
about
he
a
definitely
specific
has.
change that you another one maybe? I don't know. Go ahead.
I got a whole list. All right. So
Okay, we're
first
gonna
off,
sit here for a while.
I'd go to the ocean or body of water that lost drop the poise. I would fish that fucker out and I would treasure it forever. Because hear me out. This is from an invader's perspective. All right. Dueling, I get it. It just destroys weapon variety. It sucks. I wish there was a stone ring or something to increase poise damage. Like I know we have Crag Blade, but I don't think it's enough anymore. And obviously, it fucked with the balance.
And
I
it's
did that.
ugly.
But there's so many times in Dark Souls 3 where I'm 3v1ing and one of the host is like 1 HP. I go to hit him, and there's two motherfuckers just spamming R1 on a straight sword, stuns me once, and they're full health. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's awesome. In this game, that doesn't happen because you have poise. You walk through the straight swords and destroy the host or whoever you're fighting. You can actually finish people off without the constant annoyance of getting hit or having to gun deer swap for some poise, you know? I like that about this game. I think that because the poise exists, it's nicer to it's better for invasions. It feels like healthier for invasions. Not as frustrating. Getting hit by every single little thing is just it's really annoying in Dark Souls 3. I don't like that.
I think to add a little bit to that, I think I think a mechanic like a stun counter is kind of missing in Elden Ring. Like, you know, in Dark Souls 3, if you would get hit by a few attacks in a row, like the more attack you got comboed with, the shorter the amount of time you could roll out of it. So I think like
Right.
something like that is kind of missing in Elden Ring, where like sometimes you can get blendered from start to finish and just it keeps comboing if the attack are like delayed in like a kind of regular interval. Like if a greatsword swings, then the other one swings, and like it keeps on repeating, like overlapping one after the other. You get
I actually have
kind
a
of
question.
infinite.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt
Wait,
you
wait, wait,
G,
wait.
quickly.
Yeah, go ahead, Steel.
Isn't because like I think like I have seen your videos from beta, from the network test that is,
Yes,
and it seemed like way worse. I thought they implemented
was.
this system to some
They
extent.
Well,
did
it
implement. So they did implement it, but I think I know what G's talking about. So, like, despite that, there's like, okay, so for the first part, just to explain in as quick as possible how the hit stun counter system works. It's internally called damage count, and basically whenever you're stunned by an attack, unless it's flagged with something special that makes it not do this, you get a hit stun point added. Now this hit stun point stays on you until you exit the hit stun animation or the walk cancel event in your animation is reached. So if you can walk out of it, then it's already gone, and you could be, if you're stunned again, you will, or whatever happens, you'll have 0 points. And it's just like in DS3, it has basically the same exact timings in terms of when you can roll out of the attack. But I just think it's not enough. And because like I've looked at a lot of your clips, G, and I think I've even sent you a few, where like a few cases where it's just like you just barely are comboed like on the last frame you could before you can roll away, right? So it's either not excessive enough, and then on top of that, because of poise, it allows passive poise ironically allows a lot of these combos to work where they wouldn't, right? Like I'm trying to like think of a particular example, but you guys know.
Your best example, like how poise can freak you over. It's not exactly up to this example of faster rolling out, but the sleep animation.
Yeah, that's one thing I was thinking, but it's out of there too. Like if you see a lot of blenders that happen, like you would have been freed if you were stunned by like a lighter attack especially, but because of the passive poise system, it like allows someone to like, let's say one of the gankers hit you with a running curve greatsword attack, then one hits you with a power stance straight swords attack because you got reset from the curve greatsword, right? So you're able to tank that power stance attack, and then the second hit from another hit from like another player using a running great spear, and then like when you get hit by that, you're able to escape, but then you probably get like roll cop from a bunch of overlapping swings. So like, yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily that like that system. Well, I do know that that system is just the same as it was. Like they re-implemented it after like, obviously G showed how bad it was in the network test. Um, but like yeah, like because of the passive poise system, it ends up feeling like it's still like kind of awful. Oh, and one last thing on top of that, it's also probably because of input dropping. If you poise an attack around the same time you you do an input, it will just clear the input. I have some clips of this. I think I have a GIF I could find of it actually, and it really screws you up because you basically will just drop inputs unless you like double tap it just to be safe. Like this is literally something you have to do if you're fighting something like Carry and Slicer because you'll just notice you sort of just like try to roll it, but because you got like hit, like your roll just doesn't come out, so you gotta like double tap.
All right, I'm gonna talk about something a little different. Like the biggest change. Sorry for the little abrupt change, but the biggest change I would like to see personally for me it's actually pretty crazy. It's I would like to see some PvE arena like horde mode where you get like waves and waves of enemies and you fight them like almost like Call of Duty zombie mode and like with different maps. I think that would be the biggest thing for me. Lost, do you want to say anything about that?
Wait, that thingy that you had in Dark Souls 3, yeah? The church, yeah? Thingy. That's what you meant, or?
I don't think there's anything like that in Dark Souls 3.
Okay.
I would love more stuff for that could bring PvEer and PvPers together. I would love more stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it takes something like I think we need more. Honestly, for me personally, I think we need more activities in the game, like activities where you just like want to play with somebody else. Because like yeah, you can play the story like co-op and all, but it's after you've done it once, there's not much replayability there. And then after that, what is there? Like there's ganking, but ganking is like kind of boring really, and then there's arena team matches, so this is pretty much to me like the only kind of co-op activity we have like that can kind of be that can be replayed. So I think would be cool to get like maybe another sort of co-op activity in there.
I'm trying to think of something from the other Souls games that would be like that, and closest that I can think of is maybe the Glass Cannon, not Glass Cannon, Glass Knight, where like multiple people could be summoned to like a boss room and basically fight together against the guy that was fighting the boss. But it's
boss
that was
invasion. It's not exactly like that, no.
Yeah, I remember making a video a little while ago, and it was actually a lot of people commented on that. I was like comment upon comment, but I had this idea where we could create like a nice little treasure hunt. We use some kind of item, a hidden chest would spawn in the legacy dungeons, and you could explore the legacy dungeons with your friends, and invaders would come in and they would try to stop you from opening the box. Stuff like that just brings people together, I think, because Elden Ring and all of the Souls games are already such a unique experience, and I think building upon that experience and expanding it, I think, would be fantastic. It's a fantastic opportunity, in my opinion.
Also,
definitely would be cool, but matchmaking like in this game, just the rules by which the matchmaking like happens, like for example in the arena, yeah, I'm gonna bring quickly the example in the arena and then let you talk, G. When you are creating, like when you are joining the queue for like for an example the combat ordeal, and you want to fight another 5 guys in like a huge brawl, the way how the matchmaking works is that the game creates the lobby and then like people joining that guy's lobby, and it probably just excludes a lot of potential players because you might have situation that a lot of people just becomes the hosts instead of joining someone else's lobby, and you have like the whole issue with just like having many lobbies and few players in every of these lobbies, but none of these lobbies can start because like no one can reach the max amount of the players to start the match. And like I would love to actually finally From Software. I would love From Software to finally do something about that, to finally get their matchmaking right, because we have like shit tons of players playing this game, and activity doesn't seem like it, because just matchmaking sucks. That's kind of the bottom line, I think.
Yeah, about the matchmaking, I've always said the same thing. Maybe for Elden Ring it would not be possible, or like any game that's already out there, but for their next entries, I really think they should consider making a hard cap, like for levels, that is like much lower than 99 and everything, so that it kind of forces the player base to gravitate more toward that. I've always been saying that I don't think there's really a point for these games to have like above 200 levels. You could even argue lower, but I think like above 200, there's not much of an argument that can be made that like levels beyond level 200 like bring anything to the game aside from splitting the player base. But I think like if they could implement kind of a force hard cap somewhere along the lines, I think it would kind of not force people, but like kind of suggest to people that this should be the level they should PvP at, and it would bring a lot more activity.
Okay, as much as I agree with that, that's from a PvPer's perspective. You know, this is all from like a PvPer's perspective. I would say most PvE players want to level up like infinitely because it's fun, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I mean, ideally, I would be like, cap this fucking game at 125 and call it a day. You know, so everyone has to make a build.
Yeah, like the only incentive for not doing that is just how difficult it is to actually level up, right? Like you have to play the game so many times, right?
There's only a few, like I've talked about this in Dark Souls 3. There's really only a few people, like if you think about like the entire player base, there's only a few people that will level up like beyond like 200. Most people actually drop the game after they beat the game, obviously. But I think that even from a PvE perspective, this definitely brings in more of a replayability factor, because once you make a build and you reach that hard cap, you're incentivized to make a new build instead of just kind of pushing the same thing over and over and milking it until you're a god. But I guess that's really like more personal preference. Like some people like power tripping and, be able, like some people just activate like god mode in Skyrim and just play like that all the time. But I think for the most part, I think the majority of the player would actually enjoy that. Personally, that I genuinely believe that.
It would definitely be good for us, for content creators, because it would bring more incentive to for people to watch build-related content. I would say, because builds would be more important. Yeah, you cannot just level up to use something. You have to work around so your setup works well together, and you are not fucking weak at the end of the day.
I totally agree, but at the same time, I think leveling up, however you want, as much as you want, is one of the key aspects of these games that make it like sort of unique. You can really get super powerful, and that's sort of an appeal.
Yeah, like how would you?
That's interesting. There is not many RPGs where you can do that when you think about it.
Skyrim.
Oh, Skyrim, actually true. Like
Fallout. I mean, all Bethesda games you can do that. Yeah.
How do you limit or disincentivize it though?
Well, imagine that just imagine that you can't level up past 200 or whatever level you would set that to. I just don't think there's an argument above 200 that makes sense to me, but that's it. You just make it stop after 200. The stat spread like remains the same. You can still like make a build where you have like 99 and 1 stats, but you're going to be lacking everywhere else.
Paywall. Make them pay $20 if they want to go above 200.
Oh
Perfect.
my god, that would be pretty funny. But
do you guys think this? Sorry, Amir. Do you guys think like the live service actually?
I don't know. I feel like it's
not for this.
I mean, like let's ignore completely the technical issues. Like, with the fact that the cheat engine exists and so on.
I feel like the key problem there is just From Software being From Software, and like that's not the type of game they want to do. They constantly want to make more games, right? So like doing a live service game is completely sort of out. Like, I don't think they're
It's
beyond
out of their realm,
adapting it.
kind of.
But yeah,
I think like if you were to speak as if like we're completely like hypothetical, and like in the best world, in the best case scenario, if they like did everything right, and they kept on pouring content like over and over, and they kept on balancing and listening to the community, like yeah, maybe that could work for like the competitive side, and you know, even for content wise, even the PvE. Like, I mean, it would be nice if everything was done right. Like, would it be done right? I really, really doubt it. Like, I don't even think they have the power
Wow,
within
lack
them
of
and
faith
the
in the
understanding.
overlords.
Yeah.
You don't believe in Michael Zaki's vision?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh man. Okay,
I don't think
at
they would
least
do
you're
it right.
honest.
I think this is a wonderful and interesting question, though. Now, from a personal point of view and a very selfish point of view, I would love it if they turn it into a live service because that's more content for me, baby. But I always wanted the one thing I always wanted in a From Software game was a level editor. You know, a
Oh
Super
yeah,
Mario
some sort
Maker.
of creator. Oh dude, you're
Yes.
speaking to me here. Oh my god. Yeah, that would
So
be
we
amazing.
we had something like that in Dark Souls 3 through the cheat engine, yeah, like people were doing like arenas for
No,
the
yeah, but he means like something intuitive to where
yeah,
like anyone can
I'm just
participate
saying,
into it.
yeah, it was very cool. That's what I wanted to say. That I have seen the tournaments being hosted on the platform that was literally created for the sake of to make tournament
Yeah.
there.
So stuff like that would be so cool, and especially I see it now with Arch Thrones. We just got to see a little bit of gameplay there, and just imagine if we had a game that facilitated that type of creativity. It doesn't have to be like insane amount of stuff, but if you could put together um, several different rooms and you could place different enemies and you could place traps just to scare people, dude, I think content would be there for years, and FromSoft could make DLC for years. But as you guys have so deftly pointed out, that's simply not the type of stuff that FromSoft wants to make.
yeah. Like, just thinking of how much longevity these games have despite it all, like despite how like different From Software is, and like how still in this game they basically just copy pasted all the DS3 settings and forgot to take out manual attack aiming. you know like despite all that, despite them being like basically we're just sort of making the games like this, like despite all that, the stuff where they do good in these games have like created content for years and years, and people are still talking about fucking Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1. Like,
And
these
there is no
games don't really
competitors,
die.
yeah. To be honest, like you literally don't have competitors to the sub games. Like you have like a Souls likes, but yeah, like most of them kind of lacking. Yeah.
I think that will come over time, though. I think it was Nash who said that if From Software doesn't get their PvP right, somebody will do it before them.
Yeah,
And
but
I
we are
think that's
talking.
bound to happen over
I,
time.
I had the same opinion, but then we are like 10 years later, and and
Well,
that still
like,
didn't
okay,
happen.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Think
Yeah,
about that though. Like just DS1 though, it's 10 years later, but like look at Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring. Like, that is a huge evolution over like Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1
Yeah,
and
but this
Demon
is
Souls were
still from
super primitive.
software. I mean, that someone,
Oh,
different
them.
studio would,
Yeah,
would
I
take
mean,
over.
someone
I
else,
thought you meant
a-
like
another company
somebody else.
would have figured it out at this point, but they haven't.
Wulong is
All
getting
right.
invasions, though.
Oh yeah, that's true. Maybe we can get a game from China that does it better. Who knows?
The Lords of the Fallen also get an invasion system.
Wait,
So yeah. I even like sent. Actually, I forgot to send you and to Oro. I'm gonna do it after the live stream. There is a form on their website for the content creators. So yeah, like you can all sign up for the early copy. I think that would be pretty cool. I definitely going to do that, especially because hot take, Lords of the Fallen from 2014 is my favorite Souls-like.
I can't wait
We're
to
not-
play the new one. The new one looks like they improved like on so many levels. From
We're
the
not
first
friends
one.
anymore.
Leaves call.
Yep.
I haven't played the first one. I actually have no idea how they play, but I just looked at the trailer and it looked interesting.
First game is the biggest load of shit I've ever played in my goddamn life. It's one of the worst games I've ever played.
Absolutely. Like this is like very, very common opinion. I personally like it because I haven't seen the second Souls like that has so much replayability like this one. And just that it's like the game feels clunky because it is. Especially if you have like a heavy weapon, then like you ultimately ending up with like one attack combo that is viable. And if someone like took, for example, some sort of the greatsword and tries to play it like it would be Dark Souls, so just like use the R1s, use the R2s, and so on, they get absolutely fucked. Like this is not how you play the greatsword in this game. Like how you are playing the greatsword in the first Lords of the Fallen is you are utilizing the running attack into a R2 combo with the charge attack for the sake of to get the angle on your opponent and deal like absolutely deadly amount of the damage. And depending per weapon, like for example, you have quarterstaffs in that game. Like quarterstaffs are playing more like Souls games with the R1 and so on. But I can absolutely see like the moment like when someone just jumps onto the game and using the greatsword and they're like, no, dude, I'm out. I don't play that shit. This is stupid. It looks like garbage. It feels like garbage. I'm not playing it.
All right.
I played it. I played the whole damn game.
Before we go into like more like deeper topics about Elden Ring, I kind of want to ask like a last kind of more broad topic. I'm gonna ask Lost first. What do you think like defines Souls games or Souls-like game? Like, what do you think is like the most defining thing that makes it different, and also like we just mentioned, kind of makes it better than other competitors, whereas nobody has really taken the place of From Software games? So like, go ahead, Lost.
Wow, that is honestly, man, that is. I think it's a very good question, a very subjective question, because we could definitely go and say, well, it's the exact mix of the different elements of the combat, for example. That could be one part of it. Then you have the interesting storytelling that all of the From Software games also have. And then there's the level design. And if I had to, choose to play a Souls-like, what I want to play is a game that has this type of combat together with this preferably linear and really punishing type of level design with traps and people that want to ambush you and all of that type of stuff. I think that Souls games are not just Souls games because they do one or two or three things really well. I think it's how they melt all of these things together to create a incredibly unique and rewarding experience. For example, I'm not much of a dueler, right? I can play duels and have fun with it, but having the duel experience is such a vastly different experience from the invasion experience, and that is what I love the game for: fighting in the world and utilizing the level to its fullest extent, creating an ambush, all of that good stuff. So, to answer your question, the combat and how it melts together with the environment.
All right, I think that's pretty good. What about you, Amir?
Yes, I won.
Oh, well, like, kind of what all he said. It's really hard to, like, pin down. I feel like literally I would have to spend, like, weeks sort of just writing notes on it and then trying to, like, put it into as few words as possible. Because, like, it feels... Yeah, like you said before, nobody's really properly copied the Souls format, right? Like even if they've tried to do like a straight clone, it's just it doesn't feel like it. And like part of that may be just straight up like the the game engine itself and like the exact like intricate details of that and the software they use, but it also just feels like personal to how their design works. And I feel just nobody has put in the effort into really analyzing and understanding a lot of these things. Maybe not the lore. The lore has had like a lot of stuff, but like the combat in particular, not even the PvP combat, but the PvE combat. Like there is so much I've discussed with people, and it's very disappointing the fact that like we haven't had any videos or analysis really done on the PvE and its combat and really breaking it down. Like a lot of people's understandings of it, like they feel like they really have it down, but like there is so much to it that I have not seen been explained or really like broken down anywhere. And like one key example of that is just sort of how like a lot of these bosses, like obviously a lot of people, and including myself, like they love them to shit, but the combat in them is very, very like primitive compared to what could be with this format and with like what this combat is, right?
Oro, what about you?
So, the definition of a Souls-like has been stretched and distorted and honestly butchered so much throughout the years. It's been ridiculous.
I don't think it's the question is much about the definition though. Like more like what like why do you think like what makes it like what do they do right that no one else does?
You mean just like Souls-like in general?
Yeah,
Like what makes it good?
Yeah, what makes it good, pretty much. Not necessarily what defines it, but like what makes it good, and why is no one else able to like kind of copy them and do it better than them?
I mean,
In your opinion.
it's the same thing as, you know, compared to anything that clones something else, it's never going to be as good as the real thing. But I think FromSoft just does it best, you know. For some reason they got that formula down pat and no one can seem to copy it.
But what do you think is the key thing that for you, like you like it a lot more in Souls games than everywhere else? Like what do you like best in them?
Well, obviously the online mechanics, you know, like the messages, seeing other players, the co-op, the invasions, obviously. That online aspect for me, that's why I really, really love Souls-like, because that's what makes them unique. Although I will say a lot of games are getting on that, as we talked about. Like Doom was even gonna have invasions, for God's sakes. Obviously they got cut, but there's Wulong coming out, like you guys said. That maybe this invasion's really good in that game, and you know, then we got some competition for this system in Souls-like. But for me, that's what I really, really love about all these games. It's just it feels interconnected. It feels like an MMO-ish, but not quite. You're still together, but not really. It's cool. I like that feeling.
All right, Steel, what do you have to say on that?
What Oro said about the online component, it actually brings quite interesting topic. From Software games are like playgrounds for many different people that expect different things from the game. Like, let's say someone likes cooperation, they can just play and do the co-op stuff. Someone likes invasions, they can do that. Someone likes few of these aspects, they can just co-op, then they go do invasions and so on. Someone likes to play alone, then just going through the PvE on his own, and so on and so forth. Problem is, I have feeling like vast majority of studios that make the Souls-likes nowadays kind of don't understand the like what brings people to these games. They are not making that fun playground where you have like stuff for people that loves lore and read all the like item descriptions and so on and stuff. Yeah, you do not have stuff for people that like online interactions. You just, in vast majority of cases, it is just, yo, I'm dropping you on the level, you go through this level, you kill the boss, yo, I have a Souls-like, look at me, like this, I made the Souls-like, amazing game I have here. And it's I have feeling like every time I play the Souls games from most of the like some third party studios, like it is that like they are like, hey, yo, look, I have a hard game. I'm Souls-like now, and it doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel right. It just feels kind of inferior. It's just like I think studios just simply didn't grasp the concept of the Souls-like or more like of the Souls games yet, and what makes them actually so engaging. Why we spent like thousands of hours playing these games.
You nailed it.
Do you think there would be like a if a studio like for instance that was already established and popular but that's not exactly making like PvP related content or even multiplayer related content much? I know we have ESO Online, but if you had like a game like Skyrim and if they took that and added invasions, do you think that would kind of supplant From Software, or do you think there's too much of a difference still?
To be honest, it's kind of it's hard to tell because it is just up to the studio if they are going to deliver with the quality. Yeah, I mean, like if we had like plenty of games that had invasion systems. I remember Oro was playing that shooter game where you kind of sneak in on people. I think like it had like an invasion system. I don't remember how it
Deathloop?
was. Yeah,
Deathloop.
yeah. So like that one had invasion system. You had the Watch Dogs. It has also invasion system. It's just these things kind of, I don't know. It just I have feeling like for me at least they do not seem that engaging. And like the question is if like there must be something, at least from my perspective, there must be something about Souls games that make them special in that regard. And although, like, let's be honest, like Souls games from Software also like fucks things up. Like there is a lot of the issues with the invasions, but there is way less of these issues than in the other games. I have feeling like that have some sort of the invasion wannabe system. So I do not have as for now. I have only Souls games that have invasion system that fucking at times absolutely suck, and no comparison to someone else that would do that like still similarly engaging.
Yeah, I think you put the nail on it with the I think From Software actually does the most important stuff right, and it's more like in some of the little details that irks like some of the players. Like no matter which side no matter if you're asking, like there's always going to be like some details that people don't like for instance a lot of us here don't like some of the balances, some of the
Rough
some
hammers.
things on the network side. Yeah, but I think for the most part, for me personally, what defines it is mostly like the combat. I think no really other games have nailed down like the core fundamentals of the combat. I feel like if you take games that also have like sort of a popular combat system, like first thing that comes to my mind is something like For Honor, for instance. A lot of what you get in For Honor, you get some timing based moves, you get some nice reads, you get a lot of that aspect, but you're missing one key one, which is the spacing. I feel like the spacing in most games is non-existent aside from Software, and I think the biggest reason for that is that most melee games have this way of making attacks where attacks will always track and kind of like have this magnet effect to where if you attack something, no matter what the distance is between you and your target, your character is going, or your attack is going to be adjusted to travel the required distance to reach your target. And I think that spacing aspect translates absolutely into PvE as well. Like you don't have that magnet effect in Souls games to where the player really has to adjust, and I think like the big portion of the skill that no one else is actually replicating right now comes there. And I think that's where like the biggest kick from the combat comes from, to go into more of the specifics. That's just my take on it though.
Well, I mean, there's probably it. Like it's like I think it's just ultimately something feels off. That's for sure. With usually like another game that could be considered similar. So that is, I guess, like that might be absolutely it. Yeah.
Definitely one of the biggest.
Yeah, let's move on to some more specific Elden Ring changes to to spice things up a little, let's talk about.
Wait a second, G.
Yep. Go ahead.
So guys, we have opened the world with Amir in the game on Seamless. If someone wants to join, I am actually going to give you the vision of what is going on. We are essentially in the boss room here and just kind of chilling with the free camera and stuff. So if more people want to join us, then we absolutely can do that. You have the password and everything on the channel. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so cute.
Yeah, I'm gonna post the link to Seamless Co-op again, just in case. Hey, what is that pointing?
Why are you? Okay, so I can understand why the Albineric would be sitting in water, but why the other one?
Why not?
Because you'll be wet and uncomfortable.
That's why you have to go with the patches squad. Yeah, that's the way. All right, Seamless Co-op.
All right. For let's spice things up a little. Oro, how would you change light roll?
I would remove it from the game. Next
You would
question.
remove it? Like seriously? Like just like that?
No. Light roll needs something to be unique. I've heard a million suggestions like increase the iframes or give it a little less distance. The fact of the matter is that right now in its current state, it's totally fucking broken. And I don't know what can be done to make it unique but also balanced.
So
I don't think it should be distance. I think they need to get rid of the distance entirely for light rolling. Like it's just.
I mean, like it's like I still don't understand how like the argument of light rolls distance is fine even stands when you just look at it. You see that you roll faster than other people run. You know what?
Yeah.
I would actually
Yeah,
like
that's
what
a
I was.
fundamental problem. Definitely.
I was thinking about why not do it in the other way around. Keep the roll distance because it in the game it is not called light roll. It is light load. Why not make it run faster?
Oh, you want to
So-
buff the run speed?
Yeah, like
Oh,
you know,
that-
not by much, but minimally. And
Oof.
like, do you think like it could be interesting instead of
I
like
think it could be damaging for the game because like it's very dangerous to play around with movement speed. Like
yeah,
you-
right. Okay, let's make it. I'm not thinking here from the perspective of the technicals. Yeah, just.
could I?
Mhm.
Yeah, go
So
ahead, Amir.
yeah, I think G is right that you're sort of playing with fire there. It's just sort of like
Okay.
playing with the roll distance that's playing with fire. So it's not impossible to touch it, but just remember it's a huge fundamental change. It can't be like isolated to sort of one thing and then it's challenging whatever. It's literally changing how the game is played. The distance of the roll, like all the attacks in PvP are sort of designed around it and stuff. And the same thing is with like the running. The running is designed to be at that certain speed. Now there is actually different running
But
animations.
they did that the
but they're
same
designed
with
to
the
be
roll
exact same.
distance right now. Yeah, like it is basically the same type of the issue right now. It's just like light rolls completely demolish the fundamentals of the game. It's just like
Yeah.
in the way that like at least from the PvP perspective, I probably would prefer if like my opponent would be minimally faster by foot rather than by rolls, because rolls overlap itself, and on the high latency you become like absolutely invincible by just spamming one
Mhm.
button.
A problem
It-
though
it-
that more movement speed introduces or more running speed is that a lot of attacks that are short get hurt even more. So you're hurting every single attack by doing that, like literally every single attack in the game.
Mhm.
Because the forward momentum on your attack is not affected by like the player movement speed or the player
I think
running
I just
speed.
realized that this is like bad idea right now by the fact that the running attack animations would probably not match with the running speed as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, like
Uh,
you're probably correct about that one.
Actually, they would get a bit of a boost because when you do any animation, it blends and it includes the root motion. So if you
Okay.
actually do an attack from running versus like walking, there is a difference. So technically, while you're doing, it wouldn't apply to the entire animation, but the beginning portion, and that is a noticeable difference, right? Like this is literally a thing like you do in DS3 where if you what is it, like run then stop then R1, then you're going to have like a sort of boost in total attack reach compared to if you were to do it standing still or walking. But like what I was going to get to with the load thing, so those are like two options. But there are other options, and From Software already does these options to a degree. They're just not explicit. Like most people don't know about them, or they're just sort of like,
Yeah, there is a lot
you
of
know,
things that light load actually gives you out of the
yes.
purely out of the fact it's a light load.
So light load animations for like movement and rolling and backstepping and a lot of states are different. But also even in the medium load animations, there are events in the data that allow you to cancel things earlier depending on your light load ratio, right? So if you're closer to the light load thing, it will cancel a thing earlier. Right now, it snaps to frames, obviously, because engine limitations, but usually it's something like 0 to 3 frames, usually something like 2. And it's rather inconsistent, and it's not at all on like melee attacks. Like I don't see any instances where it's on melee attacks. However, it is on spells. Almost every spell, aside from the spell cancel, like doing a combo spell or something like that, or just a second spell, they use an equip load cancel that allows you to take off like 1 or 2 frames in 30 FPS on it. But the thing is, it's so like subtle. I think it's like subtly like incentivizing you to go lighter loads, like on mage and whatever. But like nobody knows about this because of how minor it is, and you can see this cancel and all these sort of little tidbits in different places, but it's pretty much like half baked. Like there's no explicit sort of benefit that would really make you want to use light load. And like it's not stated in tooltips anywhere or anything.
The more realistic approach that I was thinking about, because like the running attack is just like running speed is just a fantasy. I just thought like, that could be potentially cool. It's just system from Dark Souls 2, to be honest.
Another thing too. Oh, I'm gonna let Lost because I've been speaking for a while.
How about this? I think Oro would appreciate this. How about this?
Oh,
Every single time you light roll, your controller shocks you.
oh, that's fantastic.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
You got that haptic feedback for something. Huh?
Good point.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, so it should be some sort of more explicit benefit, but you're kind of like playing with fire with it because, you're still playing with fire depending on how you do it, right? Because on every weapon, there's this something I didn't mention. There isn't like that equip load cancel, but there's a separate one that's about 1 to 2 frames, and for some reason, they did this in DS3 and Elden Ring, but it's just not implemented. Like it doesn't do anything because it always uses
okay,
like
I mean,
the full event.
more specifically.
Okay, more specific. So there's something called weapon weight rate. It's like it's some sort of internal value or whatever. But every weapon in Elden Ring and basically every weapon in DS3 has it set to 0. And what this ends up doing is makes up so it just skips the event or whatever and just cancels as soon as possible. So it's as if like you had the fastest cancel speed. But the thing is, they did design it in the frame data for all those events to be there. So it's like they were going to implement it and have something related to weight or weapon weight or your weapon weight that would make it so it would be sort of variable on when your weapon could cancel out of something. So I didn't know if it's related to like your weapon rate, like in the class, like maybe let's say something like the Great Sword would cancel slower or something than like the Zweihander in a lot of instances. But it also could be, just related to your equip load, right, as well.
So there is parameter that technically gives you even more benefits globally,
Yes.
like among the weapons.
But it's not enabled.
But it is not enabled. That's actually interesting. Like I wonder, to be honest, I hella wonder where this game is going to be in the year from now on. Because like ever since patch 1.06, we have some quite drastic changes here and there. Yeah, like till this game till 1.05 feels like average Souls game, or even worse when it comes to your support from software. And since 1.06, they are changing so many things. They are making so many reworks. They are approaching these things like completely different company. And these changes are huge. Yeah, like in 1.06, we literally got the Wax Dust. In 1.07, BHS nerfs, like and like it's not in the way
Voice
that,
overhaul.
like it is not even in the way that like From Software normally would do, because what From Software always was doing is, oh, we are just typing in the different numbers in our like in our files, and at the end of the day we are getting the changes in the game in that way. But no, right now they are literally reworked Glintstone Pebble, they reworked like BHS and like other like it is like completely different approach. They are reworking stuff that was never happening. In 1.07 we get PvP multipliers. Like I seen this patch notes and I couldn't fucking believe what I'm looking at.
It
Like
almost
Me too.
it almost feels like From Software has been our parents and they've been neglecting us for all this time, and then all of a sudden they really feel bad, or they got a visit from CPS and now they really have to pull their act together, and now they're just changing things left and right, and I like it.
Yeah, it's me too. I am just impressed. Like I never expect. I was complete doomer before patch 1.06. I was like just looking at this game, and I'm like, dude, just delete PvP from these games. Like, just free me. Like, just let me go. Like, stop bringing the hope. And then like 1.06 hit the fucking game. I'm like, holy shit. Well, I guess they are not letting me go. Like, what the fuck is this? They are like, it's absurd. Like one huge change in 1.06, another huge change PvP related in 1.07, or like even multiple of them. 1.06 Colosseum. What the fuck is going on? Like, you have that meme of this guy that is in some sort of the American talent show that makes these fucking like excited faces. Yeah, like this is fucking me. This is fucking me with every another patch. Like, I have no idea what the hell is going on, but From Software, please keep cooking.
All right.
I'm gonna let them cook. That's for sure.
Before we move on to another topic, I just want to weigh in just a little bit on light roll. Honestly, I really don't think it's that hard to balance it. Like, people try to think of like reworks and all things like that, like complicated fixes, but I really just think they need to reduce the distance for light roll just a little bit. You know, light roll will still be very strong, but they just need to reduce it a little bit so that more weapons can actually catch it, because there's really only a few weapons that can catch it now. I think it's really just that simple. It's not very.
Yeah, I
right,
actually completely forgot we were talking about light rolls.
It's fine. It's fine. All right. The next one.
We're gonna have to soon actually start like the legitimate topics of the podcast, but like let's go on.
Last one, Steel. Last one. All right. I want to ask you guys about poise specifically, but what about R2s? So do you guys think, because at one point in Elden Ring we had R2s always poise break for every weapon. You guys remember that, right? Or maybe except daggers, I don't remember exactly, but like all the medium weapons, at some point we had R2s always poise break, and now they reversed it. Do you guys prefer it R2s that always poise break, or do you prefer it like now where it's not always the case? Oro, I'll start with you.
I actually really like that you have to respect R2s, because normally, you just roll backstab in other games, but obviously that's changed because you can stack enough poise to literally walk through them. However, there's a problem with this game, is that there's running R2s, that combo, and all sorts of stuff. I think that's where it gets a little different, because there's a huge difference between someone running R2U and someone like stationary R2 that you like try to walk into.
I think it would be possible to make it separate, don't you think?
Yeah, no, for sure. On where I stand, I like I liked a lot that you had to respect every R2.
All right, Lost. I'll go with you.
I feel like Oro kind of crawled into my brain and started sucking on my brain juices because that's pretty much my opinion as well. I really like that we have to respect the R2s, but there are certain running R2s on certain weapons that are a little much. I'm looking at you there, big, big pokey weapons. Not my favorite thing to go up against. I really enjoy that the move of the running ultra pokes are. I say ultra pokes. What's the actual thing again? Heavy thrusting. There you go.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
You don't like the heavy thrusting running attack?
I mean, I love it when I'm using it.
Ah, okay. I see. You don't love it when people like use them against you. I get
Yeah, have like 3 of those guys running at you and absolutely break your poise every single time. Not great, not a great experience.
you.
It
Mhm.
isn't. But other than that, yeah, you should respect R2s.
What do you think, Steel? I think you wanted to hop in.
Like, I think most problems with the, for example, that approach to the HTS comes from the fact that you can queue another running attack basically at the moment you finish the previous one. You know, like you can just continuously do the running R2s. Like on the screen we can see Amir actually doing it right now. Like
But the thing is, it's only you're thinking of the one-handed ones. Like these can chain a lot better than I'm pretty sure the two-hand ones can. Like that's a huge difference right there.
Yeah, I mean, like it still like breaks 133 poise, yeah, with the running attack. But yeah, like the point is that I think there is a little bit of an issue in this game with this type of stuff. Like the same goes, for example, for halberd running attacks. Yeah, you can literally just kind of immediately start doing the running attack after like you are like finishing another one, and you can even like kind of cancel some recoveries like with proper like movement trigger, and just like, yeah, exactly like Amir is doing here on the screen. He's just keep on doing that these running attacks, yeah. And whereas in the duels it is, I think, absolutely fine. I don't see any problem with that. And I also, to be honest, like myself, I don't have much of the problem with it in the invasions too, but I can see why some people might not like it, and why, for example, let's say for the audience that, let's say, is not very like, you know, into the PvP that much, that thing might absolutely cause people to rage out of the game immediately, because it feels absolutely, I can imagine it feels absolutely terrible when like you have 3 gamers just literally running attacking you with that, yeah, over and over. And I think this is where the issues lies with these with what is actually Lost talking about here.
It's funny because we went from poise to the issue is the low recovery.
Yeah, we actually, it's fine though.
But I was more
When
curious
you're
to hear
gonna
your...
have to edit stuff correctly, G, when you're gonna be making content out of it.
Yeah,
Because
I was more curious though to hear your take on, like, you know, some of the like medium weapon R2s, like, because, you know, like a straight sword one-handed R2, for instance, like that never poises break.
I
Like,
mean,
that doesn't poise break 133, for instance.
yeah, it's, I don't know, because like I preferably want to say that every weapon is supposed to be looked at individually, but it is wishful thinking, yeah, because that would require so much freaking job to do that. And
Or just us doing it.
yeah, yeah, actually, like that could be like perfect, but yeah, it's not happening, yeah. So at the given moment, I do not have like a realistic solution to the problem. I think, like, you know, it would be absolutely great if for an example, like any attack with the, okay, differently, like multipliers on the poise damage on 200 weapons probably supposed to be way higher for everything, for an instance, because like
Sorry, go ahead.
because yeah, like you still have like a like situation that like freaking Stone Club is just not going to stagger your opponent, whereas like Steel Bank, like a shit weapon, doesn't matter if that's R2, R1, or whatever. You just it's unfortunate, yeah. It actually drags a lot of the off meta weapons even more down, and then just makes them even worse, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have solution.
Yeah, I think you're right with that. That a lot of weapons, like no matter if there are two poise broke or not, they would still be bad. But I think some of them it would help them though. Like I'm thinking, two-handed spear, for instance. Like just the fact of having like an attack that can reliably poise break and weapons like that. I think that would be huge for the weapon class. But Amir, what do you think about poise R2s specifically? Do you think they should always poise break?
I have a lot to say, but yeah. So at least like before, I think one-handed R2s on basically any like light weapon or medium weapon, as you say, just basically the spear, straight sword, curved sword type thing. I think they definitely should. They certainly should, because like you would have to buff. It's either that or you do something like the Cestus, where you basically make them almost nearly like as like effective as standing attack, which I don't think is sort of the best option for everything, right? Like right now with R2s in a lot of cases, I don't know if you're seeing the stream, but like they're sort of just worse R1s, worse running R2, like they just have none of the perks, right? Like why would you ever, like this is the only thing R2 worth using in that sense. Like this, it's just you're static, you're stopping in your place, and then you have like a slow startup, and you also have like a pretty slow release speed. Like, and it also doesn't poise break. So you need to do one or the other, where you well, you need to do both, but you need to go harder on at least one of them. So I think on the lighter weapons, maybe with only the exception of daggers, because that's what they are, they should have like the R2 as like their consistent option from neutral to poise break, because the jumping R2 and even the running R2 I don't think is
You jump so
enough.
hard that your armor completely disappeared on my screen.
Oh yeah, so that's actually a pretty funny glitch. Basically, it's related to jumping attacks, and where something with a netcode happens, and then I just skip to the bottom animation, and it just deletes some of my body parts.
Yeah, I literally see your gloves and head, and that's it.
And the funny thing is, using an emo will fix it. Here, if I use collapse.
Oh, beautiful, very nice.
But yeah, I think, what is it? You need that sort of consistent option, and it needs to be good. It can't just be like, oh, you technically have it, so you can use this to poise break them. Because like, this is still useless. This, even though I'm pretty sure it always breaks poise, this two-handed R2 is sort of just not worth using. It's just better to, like, I don't know, kite around and maybe use the jumpings and running R2s. Like, it's just, it should have that and a lot more. R2s in general are just not tuned for PvP or even PvE at all. They're just sort of, artistically designed without much thought in their effectiveness put into them.
Steel, did you want to jump in with your topics before we take too much time?
I mean, it's for me. We can spend the whole fucking like day talking. Like, so I'm not speeding anywhere. That being said, we can just like start regular podcast, because like I'm probably gonna take like plenty of these talks and just add them after the main topic anyway, or as separate videos, like as you are going to most likely do, G, because I can imagine these questions are literally for this purpose. So like. I guess like what we can do is just finally get to the topic of the cheat engine, as this is like kind of like the main topic, and then we can just like figure out in the process if you want to talk about something more, or like we can use that list that I have prepared for us from the topics that I and Amir concluded like a while ago.
All right, well, it's up to you, really.
Okay, so I guess we can start with the podcast like officially, even though like we are podcasting for like freaking
15 minutes in. Welcome in, guys. Welcome.
Okay, hi, welcome. This is Elden Ring podcast that has absolutely no name, so I guess this is going to be literally DD podcast. In the top left corner, we have our fellow gamers from YouTube and Twitch, who are going to spread their shit opinion And we are going to talk about cheat engine as the first topic. And to be exact, if cheat engine is actually a good thing, it is a bad thing, does it actually do more better for the game, or like it is something that is completely detrimental in the long run? On the screen, you see also me and Amir hanging out in boss room of mob that I absolutely have no idea what's the name of, because I am that good at PvE. And yeah, I guess we can start. So hey guys, listen. Cheat engine overall is something that existed in these games since, I guess, like Dark Souls 1, yeah? Because like that was the first game that actually appeared on the PC. And it was, to be honest, used very often for like good things. Like, for example, we are currently using cheat engine for the layouts on the tournaments. We can make the builds faster and so on. But my question is, how every single of you individually think like about cheat engine, if this is overall something that is positive for the game or negative for the game, starting with, I'm just gonna go with the list from the bottom. Let's start with Oro.
So, cheat engine, obviously super controversial, but I think that it's become not a necessity, but a part of like building characters on PC for the PvP community for sure. It can take hours and hours and hours and hours to make a ready PvP character, and cheat engine is a nice way to do that very quickly. Technically you're not cheating, you're just speeding up the process. There's nothing that you're doing that another player can't do unless you're actually cheating with it. I'm assuming that you're using cheat engine to gain levels and armor and stats you can get within the game, right?
Yeah, of course, but like I am also getting, for example, stuff like meat dumplings that I have in the amount of 600 versus like the regular gamer that going through the game is going to have them in the amount of 30 at max. And,
yeah, okay.
And there is a question, yeah, because I personally think of myself as in these games, like as I am just a cheater. I absolutely do cheat. Like I see cheat engine as form of the cheating, although I see it in the way that it is kind of necessary cheating for the sake of so this game can be enjoyably playable. So what you think about it?
I agree with you there. I don't think there's a way that we can say, okay, yeah, that's not cheating. No matter what, it is a form of cheating. However, again, it's cheating for convenience sake and not for actually cheating against other players. But there's definitely like a sort of a gray lines there where 99 divine blessings, no one's gonna farm those or get those and stuff like that. For the big thing about cheat engine, for the bigger picture, honestly, I avoid playing on PC because of cheat engine's existence. People will cheat, they'll stream snipe me, they'll ruin my game,
actually
ruin my stream even more.
I'm gonna interrupt you quickly. Do you guys had like any experience with cheaters on the PC recently? Because since the patch 1.08, I have seen no one, not even a single soul, that would try to body move with the cheat engine, or like anyone just chilling and doing some weird stuff with the cheat engine.
The most I've seen is a stat cheater in Liurnia.
Yeah, okay, that's still a problem not solved. Lost, you haven't like seen anyone?
It's fascinating. Not on stream, but I was experimenting with a few things, and I invaded in Liurnia, and I invaded a person that forced me to backstab them. I was teleported from far away into the guy. I backstab him, and I was like, "What?"
Did you ever attempt any time in that session to backstab him before?
Maybe it's a while ago now, but
because that's how the networking works, is that if you attempt a backstab button and you hit it and you have like the spacing for it, even if you just leave, have a coffee, like travel the world, if their connection
no, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. He constantly kept me backstabbing him. It wasn't like I tried once and then I backstab him later. It was like bang, bang, bang. I tried to get
Yeah.
away. He drew me back in. So it was clear this was clearly a cheater. But I haven't really had any issues with anything malicious since very early on, where there was like one guy who tried to get a little bit of attention, but nothing much. No.
Yuji wasn't playing on the PC recently at all, no?
Yeah, but Vale, my friend Vale though would get a lot of cheaters though very often.
But like, I mean recently, because Vale is not playing since 1.08
Yeah.
March, yeah, because he's in the Europe currently.
Yeah, so I can't really speak of that. I can speak of Dark Souls 3 though. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you know what? We can get to it, but it's gonna take a while.
Kidding.
So
No, I'm kidding.
I
mean, I can't really speak much about cheaters on PC, but I can weigh in a little bit about Cheat Engine. Like, I don't think I think Cheat Engine is like one of the big reasons why I don't like PC as much. Like, I don't like the fact that you can play online and encounter people that just straight up have so many like there's like so many things you can cheat on PC as opposed to console. I like a more like closed and severe ecosystem to where there's not much you can do in terms of game alteration. With that said though, it's probably very common to have like save editing on console anyway, so it do be like that.
And even if it isn't explicit, there's probably some subtle people out there. Like there's definitely a lot of subtle people out on PC.
Oh yeah, on both. What I was gonna go into is that basically, we know From Software is incompetent with their anti-cheat systems. Okay, to put it mildly. Okay,
to put it mildly. Okay,
slightly incompetent. They don't know how to combat cheaters. They just don't. They throw easy anti-cheat. It does fuck all. They're still super cheaters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't protect anything. The fact of the matter is, PC players rely on these player-made anti-cheat systems, these anti-cheat mods. If you guys see Blue Sentinel, Blue Acolyte.
Blue Acolyte, yeah.
Yep.
Watchdog on Dark Souls 1.
We rely on the player base and the modding community to actually make proper anti-cheat for PC. And that's where I think PC version becomes like nice to play on as well.
I just want to be fair to From Software that they actually try in Elden Ring and they are actively making the changes for the sake of cheating through the cheat engine is limited. Like, for example, if you are going to put wrong ash on your weapon, like, for example, unsheath on Gags, then Gags is going to disappear. So, like, you cannot do that anymore. If you are going to move the opponent, like the other person in the world through the cheat engine, you cannot do that in the regular way. Therefore, like, people right now, like cheaters, doing this wacky stuff with forcing you to backstab them and so on. And they are like still finding the loopholes in the system, yeah.
Yeah.
But
can I say something on that?
Trying, yeah. Yeah, sure.
So with that, yeah, like I think they are putting more effort into making it cheaters' lives harder and more inconvenient, because like that Ash of War thing, right? Like it's not possible to subvert, but it's just programmed into the game as a sort of just as a like safety check or a sanity check, right? And the more of those you have, the more just inconvenient it becomes, right? You would have to mod the game. You would need to have like an actual bypass to the anti-cheat to mod the game's behavior so you can have those ashes on those weapons. But you could technically still do that and use unsheath gugs, like the GIF I just posted. But still, it makes it much harder, and you'll be seeing much less unsheath gugs because it's just that much less convenient for cheaters to do that. Like, and we don't need to go into it now, but that's the main thing of easy anti-cheat, even with how limited it's and lazy it's been implemented. Like we saw with the 2-minute disconnect issue, that was like only until it was silently fixed in patch like 1.06, I think. Like it just being there as a sort of like idiot blocker, basically where like Jimmy just can't download a cheat engine table and instantly get it working. That's enough to make people not like get curious and start things with cheat engine, at least when it comes to online, right?
Yeah, you are eliminating the script kiddies, at least the less brave ones, yeah, by doing so.
Yeah. it makes it just far more inconvenient, and thus in total reduces the total amount of cheaters, whatever. And the only downside to that is that, well, it can still technically be bypassed, but actually no, the main downside is just, the performance issues with easy anti-cheat and all the other concerns people have with like those types of anti-cheat packages.
I don't know, like overall, as yet again, Jesus Christ, just bring the different company that takes care of these things. Because like this, or like, I kind of wonder how on the technical level it works like that. For example, like particular, do you have to have everything server-sided for the sake of cheat engine actually is eliminated?
Okay, so let me say a bit on that.
How it is from the technical perspective, yeah.
If you're doing a peer-to-peer thing, there are limits to what you can do to limit cheating, right? Especially in this type of game, which is basically trying to transform a single-player, game data and world, right? And it's trying to like translate it over the network instead of something like a fighting game where you can sort of just control the entire state, right? You can have it like sort of seamless like that because everything is in this just one online session. But when it comes to your world, like your own health is your own health, your items in your inventory is your own, right? And that's not really shared across the network necessarily. Like it's not, kept track of. And thus, if you, let's say, lock your health to full, the game isn't going to try and keep track and stop you from doing that. You're not going to be able to die, right? If you hack if you're able to actually modify the game code, you can prevent yourself from dying and from these things from happening, right? You have to put a lot of effort to rework the netcode to where the other player just like it's some sort of shared state. Like that's just not what the game is.
So a lot of checks. Essentially, yeah, you have to implement a lot of checks. So if that happens, okay, it is happening right now. It is happening right now, and then like ultimately out of that, you can draw some sort of the anti-cheat engine system, yeah.
And not really an engine. Like it's like easy anti-cheat. Basically, what it is, it's not really something that sanity checks. You can like communicate things into it to just say, okay, this person I think banned is cheating. And like I've literally read the easy anti-cheat docs, and they literally say to developers like, you actually, if you want to get people banned for like you can't just rely on our thing. All our thing does basically is make sure people don't modify the code, right? And don't let them play if they've found out a way to like modify the code, right? But you still need to implement some things to make sure people aren't cheating, right? If you go online with the game and put unsheath on Gugs, you need to have the game check for that. You can't, easy anti-cheat's not going to know about that. So in their own systems, I think the best thing, and they've already been doing this, is a bunch of sanity checks.
So not modifying the code live kind of thingy, yeah? In that meaning.
Because, it doesn't let you do that.
Yeah, okay, because you can do stuff like off with the anti-cheat, turn it off, and then just get onto the game and have some wacky shit in your inventory technically, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like with the current model they have, all they do outside of easy anti-cheat is have it so the server bans you if you send data to it that basically tells them that your character is impossible, right? This is not on everything, but this is on a lot of elements, like a bunch of like invalid items or whatever. But at the same time, you can sort of just lie to them about that, the matchmaking, right? The only thing there's a couple limitations to it, and then in the peer-to-peer sense, when you connect to a player, actually, like, you can put limitations like, no, you cannot backstab the player in this state, you cannot teleport them across the map to do this, or you cannot put this effect on them with your weapon, you're not supposed to have the curse effect on your dagger, and they can do a bunch of things like that, but all that does really is limit and make it more inconvenient for cheaters, but it doesn't stop them from cheating entirely. But
there is always the loophole, basically, what you want to say.
Adding more sanity checks and more ways to make cheaters' lives like limited, like just very, very clearly just disincentivizes cheating in total because it limits their options, it limits their creativity. Like a lot of people literally just probably cheat on DS3 and games like Dead by Daylight because of how little sanity checks there are and how creative they can get and how much freedom they can have. It's sort of like modding, but doing it with other players unconsensually,
I have seen the screenshots of people in Dead by Daylight having 99 of every single I don't know, those are perks like, or you're playing DBD?
Yeah, they can do just they can basically control the entire game state. I think Oros probably could tell you all about it. Just like where they just fly around, they put themselves on the hook and back, they put someone else on the hook, they put someone else on the killer's back. When they slow down the game, they make it so a perk freezes the killer, and then also modify. Like there's just way too much freedom, and there's minimal sanity checks, and there's like no excuse for this. Like if you play something like Overwatch, yeah, like both the games are server based. So that's another thing too, where there's more stuff you can do. The game state is literally on the server. You don't need to do some complicated stuff to basically maintain it on two games. Because of that, and because they have good sanity, like a bunch of sanity checks, all you can really do is walls and aim hacks, right? So you can't you're severely limited by that, and all you can do is sort of subtle cheating on those things, right? And because of that, it's just like much more playable than something like DBD when somebody's cheating.
Okay, so ultimately up to the developer to actually seriously take care of this and and realize the problem exists and just
Also, may I
be
say one
mindful
thing?
about it, yeah. I mean, yeah, sure.
The only reason why Curse Dagger got even fixed in DS3 and why it got fixed in Elden Ring is because of the person who has done the Blue Sentinel mod and the Blue Acolyte mod, sending them directly on and off, just constantly sending emails and stuff like this about just like vulnerabilities in the game, exploits. Like if it weren't for him and other people like this actually like putting all this effort into the modding, and then also like going through the effort to constantly push them on this, and for like people to even bring attention to like the RCE thing in the first place, that's like the only reason why we have these fixes currently. So they aren't going to look into them themselves, right? Like they just aren't competent enough on that.
So the myth about From Software not listening is just that. It is just a myth. They do listen. It's just they are poor listeners. Yeah.
And we're not delivering the information. I feel like, what is it? People, we complain about these things all the time, and obviously, like, if you're criticizing the game, you don't need to be like, okay, but why aren't you doing anything about it, right? Obviously, like, you're just a player. But if you're in the community, like, it feels like people just generally complain about networking issues and stuff like this. They don't really pin down the issues. The same thing with balancing and glitches. And then they sort of are just surprised when they don't get fixes. But then when you actually do deliver feedback and you do show specific issues, surprise, if the information reaches them, eventually they actually do get to it.
Okay, like among us guys, how many of you know how to reach to From Software?
Well,
Ora, do you know how to reach to From Software? Ora
Are you asking us generally?
No,
or
no, asking Ora for now. I'm going from bottom on my list. You don't.
I mean, there are certain ways to get through to them, but it's a massive pain in the ass. Yeah.
Okay,
I have a special case because I'm working on the strategy guide. But
right. True. So you are with Bamco in contact. So
we haven't been in contact with From Software since Dark Souls 2.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that? Like in DS2, what was it like?
Wait. Let's not dig the topic. We're gonna get to it. Just like Lost. Do you know how to like potentially contact From Software?
Well, I sacrificed a hobo once.
Okay. Gee, do you know how to contact From Software?
Yeah,
well,
I think No,
yeah,
sorry, Lost. Were you done?
No, sorry, I zoned out. You go ahead.
Yeah, I think, and ironically, the biggest problem is not necessarily From Software. I think it's the language barrier. If we had someone in the community that spoke Japanese that could like feed information like clearly, directly in Japanese, I think that would probably solve the big thing, because everything we're doing is coming or has to go through Bandai, which Bandai is actually, I think, unironically doing a really good job. Like usually
Yes.
publishing
They do.
companies are the bad guys in most cases for most games, but we're actually extremely lucky to have Bandai, because they are feeding all the information to From Software, and they are actually translating it for us. So that is a huge deal. Like I can't think of many publishing companies that does that. So I mean, this is our best way to reach them, and I think honestly our only way to reach them until we get someone that speaks Japanese in the community.